Opinions discussed on Canadian Love by our guests are not representative of the crew or host. Facts may be referenced that we cannot back up, so please don't listen to everything you hear on the internet. Resources mentioned in the video will be listed in the description below. Please do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Thank you.
Today on Canadian Love, we will be interviewing this individual here, Kale, a wonderful personality living with Maxwell in this body, also an immigrant to Canada from America. Kale, it's time to show you some Canadian love. Thank you so much for joining us on Canadian Love today.
No problem.
No, we're very, very excited to have you. Now, as you heard when we were interviewing Bo, brief aside, and maybe we cut this out after. Is it okay to talk about you and Bo being partners?
Yeah,
we'll
it's
already
fine.
Have shown
yeah,
Bo's.
Technically I'm not with Bo, but Max is, so it's cool.
That's
Yeah, that's where it gets a little complicated.
I know. Yeah, what is it like where your host Max and Bo's host Bo are in a relationship, but you're not in a relationship with Bo? But you are in a relationship with one of Bo's systems, Klaus.
Yeah.
What's that like? How's that dynamic?
It's a little odd because, I'm definitely a little bit more loving and affectionate with Bo than I would be with a regular friend.
Right, yeah.
We do smooch sometimes. There's a little kiss goodnight, before someone else comes out for their side. But,
Woof!
It's really odd.
Yeah.
Because I mainly try to stay with just Klaus, because he's just my comfort person.
So when she's Klaus, you typically become Kale?
Yeah, when they're Klaus, it's usually me that's out,
Yeah.
Or Lento even. I tend to be out frequently anyways, so that's just how it works around these parts here.
That's pretty cool. That's
pretty
cool. So, Kale, your host Max and also yourself are from America.
Yeah.
And
we're from that place.
That place.
That place.
Oh
down
my goodness.
South.
So generally, and as you heard me telling Bo, we're not here to agree with your views or disagree with your views. We're here to try to understand what your lived experience has been and how that translates into your views about various political things and the topics that make you passionate. So, how would you associate politically?
Politically, oh gosh. I'd say that my views are very, very liberal.
Very liberal.
Very liberal.
Okay, interesting. And you're from, may I ask, where in America?
We're from Ohio, so not too far from the border there.
Yeah, that's fair. What was the climate like in Ohio where you were?
Politically or weather-like? Because weather-like, it's the same thing.
Noted. I meant politically.
Politically, they're very, very conservative around the part that we're from. In the capital in Columbus, they're pretty liberal up there.
Oh, okay.
But we're from a small town.
Yeah.
It's not very friendly towards the left side of things. They're all very far right type of people, running around with Confederate flags on their trucks and stuff. There's a vague tinge of racism.
Really?
Yeah, a bit of sexism too, but that's the general demographic there.
Interesting. So small town Ohio, fairly right wing. When you say tinge of racism and tinge of I guess genderism, how did you see that exhibiting itself?
I don't know. It's like the racism part is odd because I found that it's not really against black people.
That's been done, eh?
There's a lot of black people in our town. They're all chill with each other.
Okay,
but
good.
When it comes to Mexican people, people from the Middle East, Asian people, it's just they're like, what the hell, And I said, I don't know if I say hell. I don't know.
Oh, that's fine.
But
we swear on this show, right? Do we swear on the show? Yeah, you can say whatever.
Great!
You want.
I don't have to filter.
Kale, go for it.
It's just there's a lot of closed-mindedness there where we come from. I find.
So one thing I wanted to lean in on a little bit. So you're saying that the racism it's not towards black people. The black people in the community and the white people are okay with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's to you said Mexicans, Muslims.
Yeah, brown people, Asian people.
So basically just non-white immigrants.
Yeah, basically.
Interesting. So the black people in your rural town of Ohio have been accepted because they've been American long enough, and it's now just the immigrants.
And when it comes to minorities and majorities, it's pretty equal mix there, black people, white people in that town. So it's people.
Yeah, but not when it comes to non-white immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
What about white immigrants? Is that
white immigrants?
people don't really care about that?
I don't think people really care about that.
Fair
I do
enough.
remember vaguely that there was a time when I was speaking German on the phone.
Yeah.
One thing that we do as a system is if we really want to communicate with each other and it's possible, we pretend to be on the phone with each other.
Huh.
And I would happen to be speaking German and someone, I don't even know if it was a joke or not, they were like, go back to your country. It's like, wait, this is my country. First of all, and second of all, I actually bothered to learn another language, and what are you doing with your time?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, good job learning another language. Second of all, that's fascinating that, just because you were speaking German with yourself, which by the way is really cool, on the phone, that someone said, go back to your country. I would have only expected that behavior towards a non-white immigrant.
Yeah,
but because they perceived you as an immigrant from any country, they saw you as an outsider.
Yeah.
As opposed to the black people who do have skin that's a different color, but because they've been American for so long, there was less racism towards them. I actually find that very, very interesting. So the racism then, would you say it maybe comes more from a feeling of nationalism, anti-immigrant, as opposed to actual race and lack of whiteness?
Yeah, I feel like it might be like an anti-immigration thing. But what people tend to forget in the States, especially, it's a problem up here in Canada sometimes, not so much.
Sure.
But people tend to forget that it was literally built on immigrants.
Yeah.
America was literally built from people immigrating into this, uninhabited land. I say that very lightly because they're already native people, First Nations and all that.
Fact.
But
if you are not indigenous and you live in North America, you are or came from immigration. Like, get over it. Like,
you're the ancestors of immigrants. It doesn't matter if you were born there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So that's interesting. And so would you say, like, the discomfort with immigrants, would you say that that's an economic thing? They're worried about their jobs being taken?
Absolutely.
Okay, yes. So it is
That's
economic.
One of the big arguments in that part of the States. Like, oh, they're coming in and taking jobs. It's because you're not taking the jobs before they do.
Okay.
It's like, they expect opportunities to be handed to them. But these immigrants, they want to work for themselves, their family, and they come in, they get a job. It's not that hard, If you want a job, you could just try. You have to at least try. You can't just expect it to fall into your lap.
That's fair. So, and I mean, I don't want to minimize the struggles of people from this country or other countries getting a job, but that's very interesting that there seems to be an attitude of, why are they getting jobs? I'm from this country. I should get the job. But meanwhile, the immigrants are just working harder to get the jobs.
Yeah.
Now, some of my right-wing friends would probably suggest that they feel that government services towards immigrants are currently better than government services towards people from that country, and that's why they're getting upset. Can you talk to that at all? Is that just a perception caused by right-wing media, or do you feel that there was some truth to that in the small town of Ohio?
I honestly think that there's a lot of lies around that, and there's also a lot of truth around it. Because absolutely, they could be catering specifically towards immigrants if they really want to. The government sometimes has laws put into place to protect immigrants or help them out, refugees and all that.
Because it is hard to come to another country, especially with nothing.
Exactly. But I think some people don't realize is that they already, as a citizen, have so many rights in the country.
Huh.
And, I don't think it's an act of favoritism. I think it's inclusion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So, as a Canadian citizen, I get health care. And I also have been able to put more of my income towards things that excite me my whole life because I've had less money that I've had to put towards health care.
Mm-hmm.
So then someone like me who's a Canadian from Canada might see programs for immigrants and say, oh, why are they getting all this stuff? Not realizing that they have been benefiting from the Canadian system literally their entire life, and that the programs for immigration are more bringing those immigrants up to speed. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like they're just trying to get them to be on the same level, essentially. It's not that they're trying to make it so that immigrants are treated better. They're trying to get them equal.
It's a catch-up game. They're
Exactly.
trying to catch them up to the fact that they came to a country with no connections, probably limited family ties, probably not a lot of money unless they're really rich, but that's not always the case, especially with refugees and most illegal immigrants. Okay.
They're trying to get them jobs and all that, they just want them to provide for Canada or for America, I guess. Not so much America. They're a little bit on it. But up here I find they're trying to get, if you're going to be here, work for us, work with us, be a part of us, It's all about unity, I find, up here.
Which I think is great. I mean, that's why we like Canadian Love. We're trying to bring people who would otherwise disagree to be able to understand each other and have better discussions. Oh, that's the ventilation system. That's the ventilation system. So, yeah, I find this very interesting. So I like the idea that it's sort of a game of catch-up. I think that's probably where a lot of right-wing people get frustrated, is they say, well, the government is helping these immigrants get jobs. Why aren't they helping me get jobs? But I like the idea that if they instead took a moment to be grateful for what they had, they might see, oh, well, the government has been helping me in these ways all of my life. I wonder if that would make right-wing people less anti-government. Because I've talked to a lot of right-wing people who don't trust the government and say, oh, the government doesn't help us anyway. Now, true, the government does, there are corporate lobby groups that manipulate governments into helping corporations instead of humans. But I wonder if maybe if people on the right were, instead of being accused by people on the left of being horrible, if they were instead encouraged to look at what they had received from the government, that they might become less anti-government. I don't know, that's very interesting. Well, first of all, Kale, thank you very much for that insight into the right wing and the small town of Ohio. There's a lot there that we can translate to the Canadian system as well. Now, you yourself are a white immigrant to Canada from America.
Yes.
Can I start by asking, because I want to lean into that a lot.
Okay.
Can I start by asking, what made you want to come to Canada?
Well,
we're pretty cool. You got a lot of cool things, beavers, canoes.
Let's see. There are a lot of reasons behind why I wanted to come to Canada.
Yeah.
I think one of the main reasons is that I wanted to get out of my town in general. I wanted to get out of where I was living. Initially, growing up, I thought, I'm just going to move to another state, like really far away from where I am.
Yeah.
Maybe somewhere more liberal and accepting of who I am as a person. Because, I am in the LGBT group.
Yeah. Sorry, so we'll get back to why you wanted to come to Canada. So, as with Beau, you have many personalities living inside. Most of which are, how do most of them, like, a few female, a few male, what are they?
I'd say a 4-to-1 ratio of male to female.
4-to-1 ratio of male to female. Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly male around here.
And Kale, you yourself would put yourself as?
I'm a transgender man.
As a transgender man.
Yes. So I identify as male.
You identify as male, but you identify not as a male with a male body. You identify as a male in a female body.
No, I've never been cisgender in my life.
No, which is interesting, because I know that your husband, Klaus, who, for people who weren't there for the behind-the-scenes conversation, is also part of Beau's system. Your husband, Klaus, identifies as a male, not a trans male. correct?
He's a cisgender male.
He's a cisgender male. Interesting. Is it interesting to have you as a trans male be in a relationship with Klaus as a cis male? And also, is Klaus a cis male, or is he a homosexual cis male, or how would you say
he's homosexual.
He's a
very
homosexual.
much so.
Fair. Okay.
We call it big gay.
Big gay. Woo! I like it.
It's kind of an interesting relationship, the two of us, because
Fair.
I don't think he probably expected to get with someone who has, the parts that I do.
Fair.
But it still works out because I find that we're mostly centered around personality over parts. It's our whole thing.
Do you know what? Personality over parts, I think, is a great mindset that I wish even the cisgendered community, like, heterosexual males and females, would also adopt, because I think that's a way better way to live.
It's a great mindset to have.
So that's interesting. So Klaus is a homosexual male, but not a trans male. What? So
No.
How would you say a cis homosexual male, or would you say a homosexual male, and that implies that they're not trans? Unless you say trans?
I think I would just omit the cis and trans unless someone wanted to get super nosy. I try not to veer into disclosing how trans someone is or how cis someone is. Like, if you're male, you're male. If you're female, you're female, or otherwise in between.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So Klaus is a male who likes men,
Pretty
but
much.
is also in love with you, who is Kale, who is a male who likes Klaus, but is also in Maxwell's body, which has female parts.
Yeah, it's very, very complicated.
It's a lot to keep track of.
Oh, so much.
Wow, I'm quite impressed by that, by the way. So, can I, and we sort of heard one aspect of it with Bo, so I'm going to lean into a different aspect of it with you. Growing up and realizing that you were not a trans male, not a cis male, like society said that you had to be strong and have a beard and all, the sort of classic, I don't want to say toxic masculinity because that turns off our right-wing viewers, but the gender prescribed male, growing up in a small town in Ohio, realizing that you were non-binary and that you had these personalities. Did you have to have a quest for identity? Like, what was that like? Oh my gosh,
we had such a quest. It was crazy.
I bet.
Because, you already have one person, and he's trying to figure out who he is. He's going from, previously being a female all of his life, and he's trying to figure out, does he have no gender? Does he want all genders? Is he just non-binary like Bo is, or is he a man? And finally we settled, I think male is the best thing, because it just feels right. And then you add everybody else on top of that. He's already having an identity crisis up here in the head, so it's something crazy. Luckily we tend to come here and we already know what we are, so it's not too crazy.
I mean, first of all, I applaud you on the amount of soul searching and identity finding that took. I grew up as a gender prescribed male, and I did not have that much soul. I'm only now starting to do some soul searching, so that's I really respect your journey with that. So can I ask, was Maxwell named something else when Maxwell was young?
Yes, he was. We don't want to share that, but
fair.
He was assigned a different name. It wasn't even remotely close to the name that he chose for himself. Completely different letter and tone, but. I find a lot of things when it comes to trans people and their names.
Yeah.
Cis people, and I'm not saying cis people in general, but a lot of cisgender people tend to say, "Oh yeah, your name is Tammy. It should be Tommy if you're going to be a man." But that's not how it works, unfortunately.
Interesting.
Lots of people I find find names that are completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so it's sort of like they think of you as, oh, you grew up as Tammy, well, you should be Tommy, because that's the male-female equivalent. You're going from male to female. First of all, thank you for telling me that that's not the way it is. So can I ask then, where does that sort of come from? How do you find your name?
Honestly,
diving into the identity piece here.
I think Maxwell's name came from a fictional character in a video game he liked, like so many of us do.
Yeah, fair.
He just... I think he was already thinking about the name. Then somebody, fictional, came up with the name. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna pick that name," and it just worked. We asked, Bo to call us that. Well, him that.
Yeah.
And it just felt the best out of everything he tried. I think he went through a couple names before he settled on this one. And this is one that he really identifies with and likes.
That's so interesting to me. I know that there are indigenous communities or the ancient shamanic traditions, in Europe and the Orient, where youths would not, like, you'd have a child name that your parents would be like, oh yeah, we'll call you this, and then they would go out into the world on some sort of a spirit quest, some sort of an identity quest, and come out with their adult name. This sounds kind of similar to me.
Yeah, it is kind of similar in a way. I find it's a lot of soul searching inside too. You try to think of who you are as a person or how you want to present yourself, and eventually you settle on it. I'm actually all for the idea of people, it doesn't matter what gender you are, if you're trans or not, of finding their own names. Because it's your name, you're going to be called it all of your life. You should be able to, have one that you're happy with. If you're happy with what you were born with, power to you. But if you're not, feel free. It's not like a trans-only thing to change your name.
I love this. I think we should all adopt the indigenous custom of giving a child name, and then letting them go out into the world and find out at the age of 12 that they're actually Jeff, and they've been Jeff all along.
Jeff, not Bill.
You know what? I really like the name Jeff. That might be mine.
That's a pretty good name. It's fun. Right. It rolls off the tongue, right? Jeff.
I really, we're diving into me here, but like I really like playing sort of Eeyore-esque characters who are named Jeff. They're just sort of like they're playing through life. Oh, I'm Jeff. Yeah, I don't know why I like that. Yeah, this is very interesting. The whole finding the name thing. I think that's very cool. I really do like that. Well, I don't know. I really do respect your journey in finding that. Now, just for anyone who wasn't watching the interview with Bo, we are speaking right now with Kale. Kale is part of Maxwell's system. Maxwell is the host of this body who has several other personalities that are part of this human, one of which is Kale. And Kale, you're the oldest one aside from Maxwell.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Can I ask, how old was Maxwell when you came into his life, and are you the same age?
I am not the same age as Maxwell. I find myself presenting as older than him, around my 30s, honestly. But
we're the same age.
See, I think Maxwell might have been in his early double digits. Really, I can't remember exactly when we all came around. I think he was maybe 9 or 10. But...
And did you all come out at one? Did you all?
No. Oh, Lord, no.
Oh.
I think there was only 1 or 2 of us when we first started out. There was me, and I completely went by a different name. It's hilarious. We've adopted different names over the years.
Wow.
Because as interests change, sometimes our brain just kind of shifts with that. I think the name I previously had was David, which honestly I cannot see myself with, but my personality was still the same. I just changed the name and appearance. But
interesting.
There was also another one. I think she's dormant, very much so. Her name was Theo, and she was a very main personality for a while there. And then sometimes they come and go. More have been coming than going recently because there's been a lot of high stress recently. But
fair, yeah. So they really do come out with stress, eh?
Yeah, it's a stress-related thing for us, very, very much so.
Yeah. Can I ask? You only say what you'd like, but trauma was what sparked the splitting as well?
Absolutely. It's the same for a lot of people. I don't think you can just get DID. It's very much a trauma-based thing.
I couldn't go out and give myself DID.
Yeah, you could not.
Yeah. Fair.
You could pretend, but it's not the same.
Yeah, totally. And this is a question that I forgot to ask Bo, but I'm going to ask you. Being a child and figuring out like, figuring out that you are other people in the same body. What is that like? How do you deal with being 10 and going, wow, I'm now this, like, how did you think you were like going nuts? Like, what happened?
Well, honestly, Maxwell had always been a very creative child.
Okay.
And
I've seen Maxwell's art.
Yes, he's very artistic. I'm
Yeah.
very proud of him. He's a very good boy. But he always had a lot of, I want to say, alter egos growing up. He had this one alter ego when he was like 4, and her name was Princess Maria, and he would pretend to be this princess that went on magical journeys. He'd make his mom film him because he was
amazing.
like a movie star or something. But
oh, I did that too.
It was a lot of that translated into us being able to come to terms with the fact that we are a multiple, you know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier when you put it into context that, hey, it's not really that different from what you've been doing. You've been pretending all your life. Why not just accept that it's real? We can roll with it. It's fine.
That's a very interesting statement. Like, you had already done this, this thing that many children do, where you're a different person, but it's make believe, and then you just had to come to terms. Oh, I guess that's real. I guess that's also real life. Yeah, that sounds challenging, but also, I mean, great job. You seem to be rocking it now.
Oh yeah, we're getting the hang of it.
Nice. So can I ask? And again, only say what you'd like to say, but small town Ohio, and your parents, I assume, sort of fit in with the right-wing mindset.
Actually, it's quite the opposite.
Okay.
His mother, and especially his father, they're separated, so his father lives in the capital in Columbus. But his mother has always been quite liberal, and so is his father. It's a very good environment to grow up in. His grandmother, kind of right-wing, but not really. She's one of those confusing ones. She's gotten a little bit more racist recently, but we're not paying attention to that.
Interesting. What? Racist grandparents. Like,
it's like the thing.
I have a grandmother who was raised in Germany, pre-Nazi Germany.
Oh yeah.
And she'll say things about Jews, and I'll be like, Grandma.
My grandma.
So yeah, racist grandparents are definitely a thing that I think many of us deal with. Okay, interesting. So how did your family, if I may ask, respond to Maxwell's journey and transition and all this?
I find that they responded pretty well in the terms of like the whole like wide scope of how people can respond to trans people in general. Because we know people who have been kicked out of their homes for it, lots of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it could always be worse. I think the worst thing is that his grandmother kind of is in denial about it. She's like, "Oh, you're not trans," but now that he's grown, she seems to be a little bit more like, "Yeah, okay, that's fine."
Yeah.
But his family is pretty accepting, especially his cousins and his father in general. They're very, very accepting of it.
They're a little more urban, so probably we're just more prepared to accept.
His mother is only a little bit, I want to say, I don't know the word for it because I am a weirdo. She's kind of, I want to say, apprehensive about it because he has a younger sister, and she kind of gets the concept, but not really, because she's kind of young, but she's getting older, and we're going to explain it to her a little more. But
that is interesting. How does Maxwell, or yourself, if you're there at the time, explain that to a child?
Honestly, I think I explain it in the way of like, this person, even though they look like one thing, they are not. It's a weird thing to put in words at the moment, but I like to try and instill the belief in the child that you can be whatever you feel like you are.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're a man or whatever, you go and chase that cloud,
Which I think is just an amazing general thing to say to a child about anything. Find out who you are and be that. You don't have to be something that you're not. You can, whether that's an astronaut or a transgender person or anything, like you can find that and you can be that and you can be who you want. which is very interesting. I mean, I'm going to just flake off and then jump back in, but I think it's, the more that I talk to people about this sort of stuff, the more it seems that society has been society. Those guys, they drive around in a van now, but like the general conglomerate of media and group thinking and governments and everything that we're exposed to for the last several hundred years has really been prescribing gender, has really been saying, oh, born with penis. Okay, make sure you don't talk about your emotions, get in a lot of fights. You got to be nice and rugged. You should probably like beef and meat and not vegetables.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
You should like guns and trucks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you were born with a vagina. Okay, you should probably like pink and maybe want to be a ballerina. So I don't know. Do you like? I also have people, and this is something where I will comment on a Facebook post and be like, oh, that sounds like gender control or patriarchy. And I've had friends comment and be like, patriarchy is a lie. That's like 20 years ago. It's gone now. It's now men who are being, but it's all sort of coming back to gender control. Do you have anything to sort of comment on with that, or something you've experienced with it?
I fully believe that like the patriarchy, and I don't want to say it, but toxic masculinity in general is definitely a thing. There are lots of guys who are like, oh yeah, I gotta like guns and stuff. I gotta like hunting and deers and tractors. But
hunting, deers, and tractors.
It's hilarious because you can like hunting deers and tractors, but you can also like pink and Barbies and whatever, you can like guys and you can still like to shoot targets or something,
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird things when it comes to gender because people always envision it as like, okay, yeah, girl likes this, boy likes this. But girl and boy can like whatever they want because they're a person. I don't think a gender should define what somebody enjoys personally.
Yeah. I like that a lot. So basically, going back to how you explain this to Maxwell's sister, be who you are, be who you want to be, and don't be defined by something like gender. Exactly. I like that a lot.
Exactly.
I do want to say, I have a friend who's a female, cis female, through and through. I think. I mean, if she hasn't figured that out yet. Loves hunting. Loves hunting, loves guns, shoots deer, and rides tractors, and wears camo. And she's gotten a lot of male hunters who either hit on her or disparage her because, why would a female like hunting unless it's to go out and find a rugged, strong man to do the hunting for her? And she's had a devil of a time being taken seriously as a very excellent hunter in her own right who, isn't looking for a man, just likes shooting.
She just likes hunting, and that's her thing.
And eating them. She doesn't just shoot them for fish, she eats them.
I love it so much. I love to hear about people who are just taking control of whatever they like. They're doing what they want. I'm happy. If you're doing what you want, if it doesn't hurt someone, do it.
Kale, I like that attitude a lot. Can I ask, so overall, Maxwell's family was fairly supportive of the transition and journey of self-discovery. What was that like for the community? Like, did Maxwell come out to the community? Was there like what was that sort of like?
I want to say he didn't really come out to everybody that he knew, but he came out to everybody that he knew. Maxwell is a very open person, and if he he's one of those people that's like, you're going to do this in reference to me, and if you're not going to do it, you can get out of my life. He's one of those types of persons. He'll distance himself from you if you're not going to respect who he is as a person.
Which makes sense, If I'm like, hey, my name is Michael, and someone's like, I'm only going to call you asshole, I'm probably not going to hang out with them.
Exactly. It's just one of those things, If you don't like someone, you don't associate with them, and you don't attack them.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
It's not rocket science.
Just be good. Just be kind
and
loving. Can we get back into the immigration process?
Yes.
I really appreciate delving into that side of you and of Maxwell's story as well. But so immigrating to Canada as an American. My first question is, do you find that when people find out you're an American that there is a stigma? Like, are Canadians like, oh, you're an American, like, you like Trump? Like, how do people respond to that?
I can't really say much about it
Mm.
because not a lot of people know I'm American. I feel like I've assimilated pretty smoothly into Canadian society and culture even. There is a culture difference.
Okay.
Even though it's not too big, but there is one.
Can we hear about that culture difference?
Yeah, I find in general, at least with my area, people are a lot more considerate than they would be based on who I've met in the States. There's a lot of
Okay.
attitude things, really.
Hmm.
You know, they're not so focused on like the environment and like recycling and composting and all that stuff.
The States is not.
The States is not, but Canada up here, you know, there's recycling bins everywhere. There's, you know, you separate your trash based on like where it's going. You know, glass, cardboard, your litter or whatever.
Yeah.
There's definitely that.
So they're a little more maybe community minded,
Yes,
conscientious,
yes,
environmentally minded. Okay, and do you find that because you know some people think that that's great and that that's the way the world should be, other people think that that's namby-pamby stuff and that it should be more individualistic and everyone should be out there being free to be self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Do you so from what you've noticed, the more community-oriented Canadian culture versus the more rugged individualistic American culture, which one makes people happier? Which one seems to create better life?
I definitely think the community oriented one, because you know you're working together, you know, whether it be towards a common goal or just for general happiness. You know, it works out. And if you want to be individual, you can. It doesn't really matter.
But there's more care for others, maybe.
Exactly. There's a lot more care for others.
Nice. Well done, Canada. We've got more love. That's our show name, so I thought that was funny. Yeah. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So the immigration process into Canada, how's that been going, if I may ask?
Well, it's a long process. Not as tedious as I actually expected. A lot of the immigration process is waiting and waiting and waiting. I think what I've waited has been, I think we submitted my application for permanent residence in November of last year. And it's only just almost the beginning of June now. And I've just received a letter like last week saying that they're going to make an appointment to finalize everything. And pretty much the decision has been made. And I'm sure it's positive because we've given them everything there is to give.
Oh, good, yeah.
And I've got a pretty clean record on my plate here, so
I love the way that you phrase, we've already given them everything there is to give.
We have, and then they emailed us asking for more, like last month.
And you were like, why?
Because what it is Bo is sponsoring Maxwell as a spouse to come up here and immigrate. And they want proof that we live together and that we're actually in love and people know about this. And apparently, I guess we didn't send them enough because they wanted more last month.
I don't know if you guys are really in love, though. Like, can we talk about our emotions a bit?
There's
emotions. Pretty wild. Yeah. But the marriage, like having Bo sponsor Maxwell is pretty key, right? Like, that's really...
I don't want to say marriage speeds it up, but marriage might speed it up because, you know, it's a little harder for someone to immigrate here when they're just themselves and they're their children. But if you have connections, it's definitely a lot easier. I'm not saying go get married just to come up to Canada. If you're going to get married, actually be in love and then come to Canada.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, I dig
I'm not advocating for marriage fraud.
Canadian Love would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are not advocating for marriage fraud as an immigration tactic. Please don't. And if you do, it's not because of Kale or Canadian Love.
If you do, shame on you.
Yes. Shame. Okay. Interesting. So the marriage thing definitely helps, but because of that, things are going overall fairly smoothly. Are you still able to like make an income in Canada while you're waiting? Is it financially stressful?
I had to apply for a work permit along with my residence because I wanted to be able to work.
Yeah.
And I'm currently a temporary resident because they approved that. You know, I'm allowed to stay here as a temporary resident until 2021.
Okay.
and I can work during that time. I have restrictions on where I can work, but
Really? Can I ask where you can't work?
I can't work in sex-related fields, so I couldn't be a stripper or anything. So I don't think they'd want that, anyways.
That's so funny to me. Welcome to immigrating to Canada. Here's your temporary visa. No sex work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, stay away from those poles. We don't want to see you on them. You can work at a bank, but not at a strip club. Which is funny because when I think of people who have just come to another country and are trying to make ends meet, you'd figure some of them end up as strippers or in the sex trade just to try to make money, to live.
Yeah.
So that's funny that they call that out and say you can't.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So overall, immigrating to Canada from America with the marriage has been pretty good.
It's been fairly smooth. I'm actually quite surprised by how smooth it's been. It's very long, and especially with how impatient we are. We're fairly impatient, but I think it's just because it's such a big step in our life.
Yeah.
That we're so impatient, and we can't travel between the U.S. and Canada because then it would essentially reset our application because it involves like when were you last entering Canada, and
so if you went home to visit Maxwell's family, it would reset your process, and so you can't go visit family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's challenging.
It is.
Can I ask you a question? Are there any people in your life as Kale that you're like, this is someone from my life that isn't part of Maxwell's life? I mean, obviously Maxwell has a sister. That's Maxwell's sister, not Kale's sister, right? Like that's not your sister. And do you have any like? Does Maxwell's sister? She knows about the trans thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does she know about your DID and all this?
Nobody in our family knows about our DID.
Wow.
And I don't think it's because we're afraid of them lashing out, but I think it's because we're afraid of questions related to it.
Yeah.
And we don't want to answer these questions.
Yeah.
Especially with us being at such a distance.
That's fair.
So it'd be quite the awkward FaceTime.
Hey, how you been? Yep, Canada's great.
Yeah, I've got multiple
DID.
personalities.
Yeah. Wow. Well, listen, Kale, our time is finishing up here.
Okay.
Is there anything else about Canada or the state of Canada that you would like to discuss, express, bring up, throw out there? Anything about your lived experience that you wish people would think about when they go through their daily lives, or no?
Well, I just want to say that this country as a whole is really socially regarded as a better place to be, and in my personal experience, it is. It's better for me mentally and physically. I've lost a lot of weight too, so that's very good.
Okay.
It's very safe up here. One of the things was back there, I didn't feel like I could walk because there was a lot of shootings. So I wasn't going anywhere.
So by being more community-oriented and taking care of each other, we reduce crime, and then you can walk the streets without feeling afraid of getting shot.
Yeah, we literally went out to get Subway at midnight in Toronto the other night.
Which is something I do frequently.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, okay. Yeah, but it feels safe because there's less crime.
There's a lot less.
Because we do a slightly better job of taking care of people.
Slightly better, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the best, but it's better.
It's definitely better. Well, that's good. And I hope my takeaway from that is that anybody watching this, like we were saying about the government programming, not that there aren't issues, but we are so blessed in Canada. We have so much to be thankful for and and so much good reason to be loving to each other. I think that's really, really wonderful. All right, well, I guess that's our time. Kale, thank you so much for sharing all this with us and for being on Canadian Love. Really appreciate you. Tell Maxwell that we really appreciate him as well.
Of course, I will.
Yeah, great time. And I don't know, I feel like I should have something to summarize this, but I don't. Thank you again. Really fun time.
No worries, honestly.
Yeah, perfect. Do I say something at the end? Oh.
Comment, subscribe.
No, sorry, yes. Please, which camera? The middle one? I'll do the middle one. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, those things, because the more people see this, the more Canadians will hopefully understand and love each other, which is what we want. So please do those things.